the maverick Bal Thackeray had made a remark saying journalists are like dogs. If you give them biscuits, they won't write anything. But if you give them whiskey, they will write editorials. Now that was a very, very derogatory remark. But the indication was very clear. The same applies to bureaucrats. Bureaucrats always want to play safe, and then 85 to 90% of Indian bureaucrats do exactly what the minister tells them to do without telling the minister, without being bold enough to say, no, sir, this is wrong.
Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. Today we are rejoining the author of the book Target. I'm sure many of you have read it, Shantanu Guha Ray. And the reason I'm referring to this book is because Shantanu is going to be our guest for today. And Shantanu is one of those individuals who I think is a bit of an anachronism to a days when somebody could disagree with you, but in the most polite way, in the most professional way, so that when somebody is giving a thought which is not exactly in sync with yours, you get the message. You not only hear, but you listen to what the other person is saying. Why I say all this is because today we are all so in your face, where the screaming comes first and the message comes later, and what people retain is the screaming part. The message is lost, and it's always a pleasure to talk to Shantanu. Shantanu, welcome to PGurus channel.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here, Sri, and you're doing a wonderful job. I keep following PGurus very, very seriously.
And Shantanu, I'm so happy to have you on this hangout despite a personal loss, and my heart goes out to you because you feel it's important that we have this hangout. And the reason we are having this hangout is because the government is about to select a new chairman for the Securities and Exchange Board of India. The one that is currently there leaves a lot to be desired, and this is not something to do with the individual, but with the selection process. That's where I have some disagreements, having watched SEBI for the last 4 or 5 years. Now, Shantanu wrote this groundbreaking book called Target, and this came, I think, in 2016, Shantanu?
2017.
2017. So it's not long ago. And
Well,
it is why
it was 2016 December.
I see.
By the time the book started making impact, we were already in 2017.
Understood. So the reason I'm bringing back and showing these pictures is because you see the person in the middle, Mr. Chidambaram, and the person to his right and the person to his left. These are considered his minions, and they both have allegedly thrown their hat in the ring, and they would like to become SEBI chairman to protect this person, Okay.
Yes.
What are your thoughts? Because you were the first one to dare to put these people's pictures on the photo on the cover of a book.
You know, Sri, I always believe that as journalists, it's your job to take the bull by the horn.
Yes.
I did some meticulous research in the NSCL payment crisis. I would never call it a scam. NSCL payment crisis. And the way the protagonist of my book, Jignesh Shah, was hauled over the coals so that he is maligned around the time when Narendra Modi was coming to power. And once he was maligned, he was pushed into prison. And that was the time when a new government was setting in 2014.
Right.
I had this feeling that it was done deliberately. My research showed time and again how people kept on pointing fingers of accusation towards Mr. Shah, blaming him for this payment crisis, despite the fact that the Bombay High Court made it very clear that no money trail was established to Jignesh Shah. Now, that is something very, very important and vital. as newspaper or magazine or television channel reporters, people go just by what is there and what is offered by the cops, by the bureaucrats, and even by the brokers, or as many people call them, the Malabar Hill Group. Somewhere I always had this feeling that at the end of the day, it was a trial by the media. I mean, I'm saying this time and again because when I put those pictures on the cover and the book went into the market, many people told me, so who funded this? Jignesha must have funded this. So my only answer to them was, if you have heard a story from one perspective, isn't it time to hear from it other perspective and set a semicircle into a circle? So hear this side of the story also. And I've been very bold in putting those pictures up because I realized that these two bureaucrats worked in hands and gloves with P. Chidambaram to ensure that NSCL as an exchange shuts shop. That's important and that's very vital. And that triggered all the crisis.
Now, Shantanu, I have a question. Oftentimes, I get back channel, feedback that bureaucrats do what their ministers ask them to do. How much of that is an excuse and how much of that is a dereliction of duty?
I think it's a total dereliction of duty. I remember once the maverick Bal Thackeray had made a remark saying journalists are like dogs. If you give them biscuits, they won't write anything. But if you give them whiskey, they will write editorials. Now that was a very, very derogatory remark. But the indication was very clear. The same applies to bureaucrats. Bureaucrats always want to play safe, and then 85 to 90% of Indian bureaucrats do exactly what the minister tells them to do without telling the minister, without being bold enough to say, no, sir, this is wrong. Those who do stand out, those who don't, they become pawns in the hands of the minister. India is full of large number of such examples, and I can rattle out so many of them. I'm currently researching a book on coal, and many people are coming forward to say that we as bureaucrats have been hauled over the coal and nobody was ready to hear our side of the story. So which once again brings me to this point of target, that is it a devious attempt to destroy a corporate giant, a nation builder, a man who could have generated hundreds and thousands of jobs by a minister who never wanted him to grow? And that's my main point of view.
This minister is such a diabolical person. I mean, the guy has the cheek to come and, pontificate in front of JNU and utter all sorts of, like, all I can say is nonsense. But anyway, the point now I wanted to draw your attention to is I was in conversation with retired IRS officer and a retired IPS officer. This retired IPS officer had risen all the way to the Director General of Police, which is in the state cadre, that the highest rank you can possibly have in that state. So when we were talking about, why it is that Mr. Narendra Modi sent home 50 plus IRS officers, but 0 IAS officers. And I asked this question point blank to both these gentlemen, distinguished people, very honest, and they are now living, a retired life. And the IPS officer was very prompt. He said, look, all I can do for the minister is to put X, Y, or Z in jail. But the IAS officer, he shows him how to become corrupt. He shows him how to hide his traces. He essentially makes sure that no matter what happens, the politician never gets caught. So if this is the person who is giving the keys to the kingdom, why would the politician send an IAS officer home? This, I believe, is the crux of the problem that afflicts India's bureaucracy. And if you look at the thing, and I'm being brutally honest here, there seems to be a sort of a ladder where this ladder, a sort of a pyramid where the top is being occupied by the IAS officers, and I don't know what the other steps are. I could be wrong, I could be horribly wrong. I'm looking at it from a very far distance. But what is your impression about how you see the bureaucracy structure? They're doggedly resisting any outside specialist from coming into that.
You know why they are doing this? The time Narendra Modi came to power, one thing he did, he made a request. It was not an order. He made a request for people to be in office on time and not to spend long hours at the golf course. So somebody was sent to the Delhi Golf Club to ensure that they tell the bureaucrats that they need to be in office. They are in the business of building nation and they need to spend quality time there. That was the first friction that happened with the Narendra Modi government, and bureaucrats didn't like it. This was the first step. Secondly, a large chunk of bureaucrats continued to delay procedural matters in where the Congress ministers were being hauled up. It became extremely difficult to probe cases like Augusta Westland, cases like Moses Bear, cases like all kinds of corruption, and it became very difficult. Let's take a realistic look at if the bureaucrats had their way, India's #1 lobbyist, Deepak Talwar, would never return to Delhi. He would be still there in Dubai. Today, another guy, Sanjeev Chawla, is in Tihar jail. And it took, imagine, the Delhi police, the ED, the CBI, the Ministry of External Affairs, all worked on this case of fixing in cricket. Still, it took them such a long time. 1999, the Hansi Cronje case, and we are in 2019, 2020. Delays happen only because interference happens. It is routine in India. It's routine in Delhi, particularly Delhi, because Delhi dictates the terms and other people follow it.
And see, PGurus has always been saying that, investigations are not moving fast enough, things are not happening. Yet, we noticed that in the last few months, there has been a palpable change in pace. And it's essentially, all I can put down to is, I don't have access to the corridors of power in Delhi. In fact, I visit Delhi for a day or two in 4 months or once every 4 months or so. So I don't really get to know the inside, the inner workings of what happened. All I can look at it, the macro picture, the big picture. I do see that the current term of Narendra Modi government is really, really trying hard to fix some of these glaring omissions. Now, what would be your recommendation for the next SEBI chairman, Shantanu? Because I can tell you, if SEBI was doing its work, then NSE wouldn't be getting away with the collocation scam or the other things that have come about.
NSE, DHFL, ILFS, all this happened because of whistleblowers.
Yes.
I think that is the biggest thing SEBI must understand.
Correct.
This is something SEBI must realize. They are the market regulator. Look at their fight with Subrata Roy Sahara. If it believes that he is the biggest crook and he is rooting Hawala money, then the case should have been over by now. Where is the proof? What kind of investigations they do? So are they trying to tell me that they tried but they failed? They are mollycoddling these big cases in NSC. I have personally gone to court and asked, and the judge has asked the CBI, based on my petition, that please look into this case very seriously. Until date, I don't even have a shred of paper from the CBI saying whether people I named in my petition were ever interrogated or not. And what do I see? I see one of the masterminds of NSC writing a book and the whole media landing up there in saying, look at this great nation builder, Ajay Shah. Now, I'm just a little amazed. I mean, if you are under investigation, will you get into something like this? This is nothing but whitewashing.
Well, I in fact also looked at one of the emails that was doing the rounds when his boss, Mr. Vijay Kelkar, who's a co-author in that book, was doing the rounds to all the bigwigs in mandarins in the bureaucracy, saying that people are on a witch hunt of Ajay Shah, whereas the proof that is available with CBI, which I'm strange that they have not acted on it, and even the other black and white crime, which even the SEBI's own technical action committee, TAC, led by Professor Ashok Junjunwala, they said that OPG got illegal access. They got preferential access. They were the first ones getting on, and then they never got off. They got to look at the orders before everybody else did. All that stuff. It was black and white proven by SEBI. And then NSE jumps in and says that OPG did nothing wrong. So today, in the NSE collocation scam, not a single paisa of fine has been collected. And it's just amazing what kind of shenanigans happen. We have written tomes, you've written tomes. Now, when will India extricate itself out of this mess? Because if the financial markets are not transparent, foreign money is not going to come in, because foreign money needs an orderly entry, which we have provided by way of participatory notes maybe, which is not the right way to do it. It should be FII, FDI, and an orderly exit. And everybody who's foreign investor, they say these are the real genuine investors, not the politician money being routed back as FII and FDI. That's a fraud direct investment. That's not what we are talking about. So they say that putting money into India is easy, taking it out is almost impossible. So what are your thoughts? What should Narendra Modi be doing to make sure that SEBI becomes more of an effective regulator, does its job, and then hauls up all these errant exchanges whenever they make mistakes?
Delhi is high on rumor that lobbying has started effectively for the new SEBI chairman. I don't have proof, but my sources have told me top bankers have started lobbying for some of their favorite candidates, and they have started meeting the finance minister and the other ministers and even influential bureaucrats in PMO. Now, my point is very simple. Narendra Modi's government knows what to do, because I'm just a journalist. I'm not a bureaucrat. I write what I see with evidence I gather. SEBI chairman, in my opinion, should be bold and should be brutally honest. And the SEBI investigation team, the SEBI technical team, should now finally come out of the shell and say the co-location was a problem, it was a scandal, and fines have been collected, and let's bury it now. They are behaving like ostriches. They are not even reacting to it. Despite the fact their very own Jhunjhunwala has made it very clear that preferential treatment obtained by OPG and others, they made tons of money. And it is evident, clearly evident in SEBI's own investigations. So if I do not react on my investigations, then nothing is going to happen. Way back in 2010, I think not 2010, I think it was 2003, I was in South Africa, and I met up with a very interesting guy called Kasim Hamid Banjo. Kasim Hamid Banjo was the same guy who was giving money to the cricketers, Indian cricketers, West Indian cricketer, Australian cricketer, Pakistani cricketers, and corrupting them. Finally, in the King's Commission, where Hansi Cronje, the only cricketer who confessed to fixing matches, when the King's Commission let him go, Kasim Hamid Banjo sat in his shop and told me, I escaped only because you guys did not probe me enough. I was completely stunned in hearing it. He said the ICC the BCCI, they will never, they will try and clean cricket the way FIFA has done in cleaning a large chunk of dirt in world football. So the SEBI chairman needs to be a brutally honest person who will not mind putting people behind bars for scandals caused. But will that happen? I have my serious doubts.
Well, Shantanu, what all we as journalists can do is shine a spotlight, show the mirror, and allow people tell them that this is what we see. It's up to them to act. And will this Narendra Modi government, which means well, which has tried very hard to put the corrupt behind bars, will they follow through with this? Because this is more of an infrastructural requirement. You need to do it today. So 2 years down the road, people can look up and say, oh yes, now the stock market is more fair, it's more transparent. People are able to buy the stocks they want. Collocation is a thing of the past. That needs to go. The whole concept of collocation is illegal, but that's a topic for a different day. I'm going to invite you, Shantanu, for just the fact about collocation, why collocation is illegal, just looking at it technically, and I can explain that part, and you can weigh in from a lay perspective, from a lay investor. But thank you very much for joining this hangout, and we'll be back with more such insightful discussions. Shantanu, we want to sign off for this?
Well, I think all I have to do is, it's very interesting. I'm going to show this moon lamp to you. Every time I get depressed, I light it up and I sit next to it like the phantoms. And then I wonder that when will corruption go from my country? Narendra Modi is trying hard, and I would like to gift him a moon lamp so that he sees what is happening in the country. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much.
Anytime. Thank you.
Namaskar. Namaskar. Namaskar.